One of the things on the internet that's very pronounced on the internet is this idea of trust. On the internet today, many people find it very hard to trust information they're receiving. Well, not so much the information, but the people behind the information. For instance, if...
Look, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what I think is that we're just in the beginning phases of this type of development, and this is why it's still hard for us to come to conclusions, you know, to make some summaries. I don't think we can already analyze this situation. The whole thing exists for maybe 10 years, and the social networks just began recently. All those social networks didn't even find their proper form yet. They're not fully developed yet. People don't yet realize what they really need from that. They just go into those things and they try it and they experiment with it. But it is still, people do not yet know where it is all leading us to. This is why I think that, like in every beginning, you have to let something develop naturally until the pattern, the tendency becomes apparent. And I'm certain that all the redundant things, all the junk, you know, all the spam in the internet will gradually decline, will gradually disappear, because people will not want it. No one will like it. No one will do it. There will be some things that will perhaps exist aside from the major things, but the main central area of the net will move towards what we need, which is the connection between us, to feel each other. Because eventually, regardless of the internet, we humans are developing towards an integral global society, a global community, where all people around the globe have to be connected to each other, connected in our desires, in our understandings, in our thoughts, aspirations, our goal. Everyone as if have to have one mindset, one intention. Nature is leading us, pushing us to a state where we are as one body. This is why I'm certain that the internet is moving in that direction, to service us in that way.
Yeah, you said here that the internet's without any connection to this, that this development's happening without any connection to the internet. This is actually one of the things I wanted to see in this meeting, whether the internet at all is actually causing this connection to take place. A lot of people might think that now they have the internet, so now that they can talk with people all around the world on all sorts of topics. So is the internet like a cause of this, or is it that something else is driving this, and internet is just another outcome of it?
No, of course not. The internet is just a tool. It's just a vehicle. It's like I told you before. On the way of our development, on the course of our development, we even started developing other things, but we left them, we abandoned them, because we didn't feel we need them. We are picking out, of all the options, only those that are answering our inner needs. And the internet helps us answer that inner need, to become connected with the world, to know what's going on in the world, to feel each and every one, and so on. This is the direction in which we are developing, and this is why our internal development is the cause. This is nature. It is the creation, it is the plan of creation that develops us towards becoming one man in one heart, undoubtedly. And eventually, we will reach that by all those means that develop, meaning the technology can help us do that, but eventually it will only realize what our nature is moving us towards.
What's actually behind this inner drive to create this global connection between people?
That humanity will rise to a whole new level of existence, because we are eventually fulfilling an inclusive, global, eternal purpose of creation. According to nature's plan, we are to reach a state where one becomes connected to all the others and he begins to absorb their qualities, their desires, their thoughts. One begins to feel that he cannot remain within himself, introverted, so to speak. He will feel empty in that state. And one will try to exit himself, to come out of himself towards others. In other words, instead of being an egoistic vessel, he will feel that he has to come out of himself, as if you're strangled by that perception, and then you have to exit towards bestowal, towards feeling what's really outside of you. And this is how a person comes out of his own narrow, egoistic world to the external, so to say, virtual world outside of each and every one of us, that collective vessel. It's like that network of connections that we're now building between us, which is virtual. It's based on electronics, but in reality, it's actually the system of desires that connects us. And if a person comes out of himself and he wants to live outside of himself, to see and understand and feel all those desires in that system, then he begins to feel the life that's outside of him, what's called spiritual life. This is why I think that this manifestation of the internet is something that will help us gain the knowledge, the understanding that coming out of ourselves is really entering spiritual life.
Okay. I'm just wondering, because this desire to really come out of a person, where does this actually sit with all these other, like if you look at the internet today, just as you look at the whole world, people
No, this is still far what I'm talking about. I'm talking about farther phases of development. It is when people will begin to use that network to come out of themselves. That will still take time.
So towards that, one thing I'm seeing, and also what I saw on the internet, is that as it seems, people seem to value things on the internet, like on the computer screen, a lot less than they value things, let's say, in the physical world. Like, for instance, it's been shown that online gamblers spend a lot more money on the internet because these numbers seem a lot less valuable for him than, say, money in his hand when he's at a physical casino. So what I was wondering is whether this lowering of psychological value of things, whether this is something, again, whether it's something caused by the internet or whether in general people are just enjoying things in the material world a lot less, and it's developing towards something greater than this.
Of course, a person doesn't really properly estimate numbers the way he estimates what he holds and feels in his hands. You know, we're like big children, so to speak. What you feel in your hands is what you feel. And if you're talking about something virtual, then you don't really feel it. It's less tangible for you. So things become more dangerous. But I think that we will move from all this phase of development to a more emotional level. We will want the internet to serve us not for just information and video clips of all kinds and all of that. The whole virtual space is so filled up with these things. You know, it's like today we're not so interested in TV anymore, or with books, it's a better example. In the same way, we will begin to be exhausted by the internet. We will begin to be more demanding towards it. And by nature of things, we will keep only the things that we really need, things that are really good for us. And this is why I think that we are now going through this phase of development where I believe that people will want more and more qualitative things. And there won't be a lot of room for things that don't provide you with real fulfillment, with real emotion. Because even though you have the internet connection and so on, people all around the world still feel left alone, abandoned, neglected, or they feel empty. There are those who use drugs or can't find themselves because there's emptiness. Emptiness is felt all around. This is why I think that the internet will have to be much more emotional, interactive in that sense, much more fitting to our psychology. I think the future of the internet is those things that can fulfill man's soul. Because we are the users, and the internet is only the tool, the means of communication. So what is the type of connection, the type of communication that has to happen between us? The future connection between people is that we use each other to rise to a new level of existence. Nature is advancing us to become global, just like the rest of nature, just like the whole of nature. And in order to attain that, we have to be connected through our thoughts, through our desires, and the internet will have to help us in that.
Just like to say also that you know, is this also what you're trying to achieve? Because when I think about it, you're also one of the internet's most prolific bloggers. You're posting about 8 to 15 posts a day. They're translated into many languages. Is that actually what you're trying to achieve through your work on the internet?
I am trying to give people what my dream is really, is that we will be able to build such a big, open, vast network for all the languages and for all the options where people will be able to find fulfillment for their soul.